Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to explore one of the most important foundations of the International Baccalaureate, the Program Standards and Practices, also known as the PSP. The PSP is the framework that defines what it means to be an IB World School. It is the DNA of IB education. It provides the language, the expectations, and the vision that unite more than 5,000 schools across the globe. Whether a student is in a classroom in Nairobi, Singapore, or Geneva, the PSP ensures that they experience education that is consistent in philosophy, rigorous in practice, and deeply aligned with IB's mission. The PSP is not a rule book. It is a reflection of IB's philosophy in action. It explains how schools bring the IB mission to life, the mission of developing inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who help create a better and more peaceful world. Let's begin by breaking down its structure. So, the PSP is organized into three key elements: standards, practices, and requirements. Standards are, these broad, aspirational statements. They really capture the big picture of what IB values. For example, one standard states that schools must demonstrate commitment to the IB mission and philosophy. This isn't just about ticking a box. It's about showing that the entire culture of the school, from leadership decisions all the way to classroom interactions, reflects the IB's values of inquiry, intercultural understanding, and respect. Practices are the concrete actions that actually bring those standards to life. For instance, one practice requires schools to ensure teaching and learning are inquiry-based. Another emphasizes that schools must have clear policies for assessment, inclusion, and academic integrity. Practices make the standards real. They're the day-to-day evidence of IB philosophy in action. So, requirements are program-specific. While all IB schools share the same standards and practices, each program has additional expectations. In the Middle Years Program, or MYP, students must complete a personal project and experience interdisciplinary learning. In the Diploma Program, or DP, schools must implement the three core components: theory of knowledge, the extended essay, and creativity activity service. These requirements are, honestly, what give each program its unique identity. Now let's explore some of the major themes across the program standards and practices in more detail. First up, learning and teaching. The IB emphasizes inquiry-based and concept-driven learning. This means that instead of starting with the answers, we actually start with questions. For example, an MYP science unit might begin with the question, how do we balance human progress with the protection of ecosystems? This approach encourages students to think critically, make connections across disciplines, and apply their knowledge to real-world problems. In the Diploma Program, this inquiry-based mindset is nurtured through theory of knowledge, where students challenge the very basis of how knowledge is constructed. Second, approaches to learning, or ATL skills. These are transferable skills that go beyond subject knowledge. They include thinking skills, research, communication, social collaboration, and self-management. In practice, this might mean teaching students how to design an effective research question for their extended essay, or helping an MYP student develop time management strategies for their personal project. These skills prepare students not only for assessments, but for lifelong learning. Third, assessment. IB assessment is criterion-related. This means that instead of comparing students to each other, we measure them against transparent, published criteria. In the MYP, assessment rubrics for each subject group ensure consistency and fairness. In the DP, external assessments are marked by examiners worldwide using standardized criteria. This creates both reliability and fairness. But assessment in the IB is not only about grades, it is about feedback, reflection, and growth. For example, teachers are encouraged to involve students in understanding criteria and using it to reflect on their own learning. Fourth, inclusion and diversity. The PSP emphasizes inclusive education. This is not limited to supporting students with learning differences. It also includes valuing cultural diversity, honoring multilingualism, and creating an environment where every student feels respected and supported. For example, a school might develop flexible pathways for assessment access, or create a language policy that values students' mother tongues as a resource for learning. Fifth, academic integrity. Schools must actively foster a culture of honesty and fairness. It's not just about catching plagiarism, but really about teaching why integrity matters. In practice, this involves building students' skills in citation, collaboration, and ethical decision-making. For instance, when guiding DP students through their extended essays, Teachers are expected to mentor them not only in research methods but also in academic honesty. Sixth, collaboration and professional development. IB education is collective work. The PSP requires that teachers plan collaboratively, ensuring consistency across subjects and grade levels. For example, in the MYP, teachers design interdisciplinary units together to help students see connections across subjects. Schools are also expected to provide professional development so that teachers remain confident in IB pedagogy. Participation in IB workshops, online communities, and internal professional learning, well, these all ensure that staff continue to grow. Seventh, leadership and school culture. Leadership is essential to sustaining an IB program. School leaders are responsible for making sure there's alignment between the school's mission and the IB's philosophy. They also ensure that resources are available, that policies are in place, and that staff are supported. But, leadership in an IB school isn't only administrative. Coordinators and teachers are also leaders in shaping school culture by modeling international mindedness, by advocating for student agency, and by promoting collaboration and reflection. All of these elements connect directly to program evaluation, which, by the way, takes place every 5 years. Program evaluation is not an inspection but a reflection. Schools engage in a self-study, prepare evidence, and host an evaluation visit. The goal is to celebrate strengths, identify areas for growth, and ensure the school continues to align with the PSP. As teachers, your work in classrooms provides much of the evidence that shows how the PSP is being lived out daily. To make this a bit more concrete, let's consider a few examples of PSP in action. When a teacher designs a unit that begins with a statement of inquiry, aligns assessments to criteria, and incorporates ATL skills, that teacher is directly enacting PSP practices. When colleagues meet regularly to review student work and adjust their planning, they are demonstrating the practice of collaborative reflection. When a school develops an inclusion policy that ensures support for students with diverse needs, it is responding to PSP standards about equity and access. When DP students engage in CAS projects that address community needs, they are experiencing the requirements that make IB education holistic and impactful. The PSP also emphasizes reflection questions that we can ask ourselves as educators. For example, how do our units encourage inquiry and conceptual understanding? How are we supporting the development of ATL skills across subjects? And are our assessments designed to be transparent, fair, and supportive of learning? How are we ensuring that every student feels included and valued? What opportunities do we create for teachers to learn from one another? And how does our school culture reflect the values of the IB mission? These reflective questions help us see that the PSP is not a distant document but really a daily practice. To conclude, the program standards and practices is the backbone of IB education. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that what happens in our classrooms, in our policies, and in our leadership truly reflects IB's mission. As teachers, we bring the PSP to life every day. When we create inquiry-based learning experiences, when we teach students how to think critically, when we design assessments that help students grow, and when we embrace inclusion and integrity, we are not only meeting standards, we are shaping internationally minded learners who can engage with the world thoughtfully and responsibly. Thank you for your commitment to this vision. Together, by living out the program standards and practices, we ensure that our students receive not just an education, but an IB education, one that prepares them for the complexities of our world and empowers them to make a positive difference.